Well, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York estimates close to 9.7 million student loan borrowers became past due on their bills after that payment pause on those loans during COVID. Well, after that pause, the Biden administration offered borrowers a 12-month sort of on-ramp to payment.
During that time, borrowers were shielded from most of the consequences of late payment. That relief period ended in September. Since that time, borrowers have now fallen behind on student loans. And Matt Carpenter is the founder of College Aid Pro, and he is joining us live now via Zoom. Good morning.
Good morning.
So a person having a hard time paying their student loans, what are their options? What would you recommend?
Well, I might have to take over for PR for this administration because they've been doing a great job in putting out kind of the scary news, less so good news. 2 days ago, it was just announced, albeit quietly, that although 5 of these repayment options were paused for a brief period of time, 3 of them are now available. So again, as of 2 days ago, borrowers have a lot more options to get into a monthly repayment plan that's more manageable and is all based on their income. And as a matter of fact, if they have low income or no income, their monthly payments could be $0.
Oh, wow. And so those are 3. Like, what's the best place for people to go to learn about those options?
So they're going to have to log into their accounts online. And although these are federal government loans, there's individual providers, so different contractors that individuals will have that service these loans. So they need to get in touch with their servicers. They need to get into their online account and make sure that if they're really struggling with monthly cash flow, and that's kind of the biggest obstacle at this point, that they choose one of the repayment plans that, again, is tied to their income. That could be the income contingent repayment plan, income-based repayment plan, or what's called pay as you earn. All basically the same thing. And again, we got some relief that just came 2 days ago, which is great.
Yeah, that is good information. And most all this is online. Like, there's not, I know, I guess that's part of the, not, I wouldn't say problem, but there's nobody to sort of speak to about these options. You're going online to see what you might qualify for.
I don't want to say nobody to speak to, but that's one of the biggest challenges right now. Certainly with these cuts to the Department of Education, 50% of the staff being let go, there's just less support. So trying to call into some central agency that's very depleted and wasn't very accessible even before these cuts, you want to focus on your provider. So it could be Nelnet, for example, is one of the top 5, right? There's about a half dozen of these. So they need to find out who's your provider and communicate directly with them. Online's your best bet, but we have had plenty of people get through with good old-fashioned persistence. Just get ready to be on hold and go about your day, and eventually you will get on.
Can you talk about the impact that student loans have on our economy?
Well, look, it's huge, right? I mean, we've seen the ripple effects. This is the first generation where, some of the parents are still, or plenty of the parents are still repaying their own loans, right? And so that gives them less of an ability to make an impact or contribute towards their students' college costs. And now as those students graduate and enter the workforce, maybe their biggest, or certainly one of their biggest expenses, is paying back their student loans. So forget about rent, forget about kind of everyday expenses, and certainly forget about things like a down payment on a home, or maybe getting married, starting a family, et cetera. So, you can draw a straight line to these exploding college education costs, these expensive loans, to why, people are starting families later and buying homes later. Of course, it's not the only variable here, but it's certainly one of the big ones.
Yeah. And so then if you've got a high school senior or a junior at home looking at colleges, do you have any advice sort of working in this industry that might help them navigate the loan process?
How long do you have? I mean, we could do a lot of segments on giving guidance. That's what we try to do every day. But the big takeaways is that the federal government is saying, look, we're not going to be a resource, really. We're stepping out of this. Good luck to everybody. And there's a silver lining there. That's a little bit scary, but we want families to take ownership. Like, a lot of consumers don't know that if I'm middle class or below, it's probably going to be more affordable for me to attend the $90,000 college that is Rice than the University of Houston, for example. And again, this is counterintuitive. It's not common knowledge. So as consumers, we have to know, what is our financial aid eligibility? What's going to be my most affordable colleges? And guess what? Those may be the ones ones that appear on the surface to be out of reach. And then finally, if I do have to borrow, I got to be a smart consumer. I got to shop. I have to do everything I can to get my credit score up, because my rate and repayment term is going to be directly tied to both the student and parent's credit score. So these are things that we should be looking at now, among a lot of others, but those are a few.
Yeah, I'm not there yet, but I have heard that same thing, that like don't discount like these private universities that you think, oh, I can't pay for that, because depending on your income, you might not have to pay for all of that. It's likely that you wouldn't.
100%, right? Part of the challenge here is this lack of transparency where again, we would think that the colleges that are $100,000, we're not even going to consider those. And we're going to tell our kids, hey, look, you can only apply to state schools. But if we're doing that strategy as a strategy tied to affordability, it could be the exact opposite of what makes sense for your family. So again, that's where we got to say, hey, where are you on this kind of financial aid spectrum? Which colleges are actually going to be most affordable for you? And let's go make a great list of schools that fit within that. And it doesn't mean that we have to sacrifice quality, the quality of the education by any stretch.
Wow, that's really good information. Matthew Carpenter, thank you so much for joining us.